Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second training session on stress management techniques. Staying calm during difficult conversations with a business partner, belligerent customer, intrusive landlord, or disgruntled employee is definitely an acquired skill. But if you consider yourself to be a work in progress, this stress management session is for you. Joy Rich is tonight's presenter, and her topic is Communicate to Resolve Conflicts and Nurture Relationships. What qualifies Joy to speak on this topic? Her academic achievements include an MBA, LLB law degree, and a BA in political science. She was also a Florida Supreme Court certified family mediator, and she is a skilled alternative dispute resolution trainer. Joy has taught thousands of people the calm dialogue, a 4-step conflict resolution method she developed. The primary focus of her attention is now on creating peaceful resolution techniques that will aid in the advancement of communication for all. Please welcome Joy Rich.
Hey, Felice. Thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to speak on this topic. So I will share my screen so I can start the presentation from the beginning. Go back. All right. So can everyone see that? Okay, good. All right. So our topic today is going to be communicate to resolve conflicts and nurture relationships. All right. So Felice just told you all of my qualifications. So we're going to jump right in. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to cover when dealing with conflicts and disputes is perception. So I want you to type in your chat box what you think the name of this symbol is. And Preston has said he will read it. He'll read out some answers for me. Okay. Okay.
So Joy, so far what I'm seeing is we have some person saying number, some folks are saying hashtag, folks on Facebook, they're saying £.
Okay.
Another person said hashtag as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So depending on who you are, you're going to see it as a £, or a hashtag, a number sign, even a tic-tac-toe board. So this simple exercise is just demonstrating how one thing can be seen, by different people differently, right? So that's the first thing you should realize when dealing with conflict, is that sometimes people have different perceptions on what the situation is. Okay, so knowing that there are different ways of looking at something will help you understand that different people have different perceptions, which may lead to conflict. All right. So we're going to move on and we're going to talk about what is the definition of conflict. Okay, so in this context, we're going to be, just for clarification, interpersonal conflict in this context entails the concepts of a person's perceptions of injustice, incompetence, goal impediments, and being the target of another person's physical or verbal antagonism. So in this very definition, it has perceptions, right? So when there are two people and they're in a dispute, it is the perception of each of them which is causing that issue, right? Because one person might see something as being unjust, whereas another person might not. And that is what leads to conflict, okay? So let's cover some ineffective communication techniques, which you can see in everyday life if you start to look for it, okay? So it's called, the first one's called the red herring, okay? So I just have a little dialogue here. So Dan, is the report ready for the presentation? Frank, no, I was busy trying to fix the internet issue that we've been having. The internet has been really slow today and everyone's been calling me about it. So the purpose of a red herring is to distract from the initial topic, the report, right? So Frank obviously doesn't have the report ready. So he's now distracting by saying, oh, he's been dealing with the internet. Okay. So I don't know if anyone is familiar with where the term red herring comes from, but it's a, I think a term used in hunting, or, you know, when they had hounds looking for deer or rabbits. So they would, to prolong the hunt, they would rub red herring on the trail to distract the hounds, right? So basically, this is what it's doing now. You're rubbing a red herring on the issue to distract from what the actual issue is, right? So in this scenario, the actual issue is the report. Okay, here's another tactic that's ineffective that people use. It's called the ad hominem or personal attack. So ad hominem is the Latin first phrase for personal attack. So in this scenario, Anderson's saying, can you answer the phone? And Cody says, you're so lazy, you expect everyone else to do everything while you just sit there acting busy. So the ad hominem aims to attack the character of a person and not the topic, which is answering the phone, right? So a lot of times you'll see this in various disputes when someone is having a conversation and they're like then becoming, a person is attacking their character, and it's really getting them off topic, okay? So ineffective communication, such as the red herring and ad hominem or personal attack fallacies, lead to stressful arguments, okay? So if you can identify these two fallacies, you can redirect the conversation back to the original topic. So don't get sucked into the conflict. So when you start to look for this red herring and the personal attacks, you're going to see them show up everywhere. Okay, so the red herring and ad hominem are two quick ways that you can detect subtle and overt conflicts between team members in the workplace. Okay. All right. So we're going to look at separating the individual from the issue. So when you're dealing with a dispute, it's important to separate the individual from the issue. So this will result in a more productive discussion. For example, if dealing with settling a dispute about gossiping, right, you have to make sure that you're actually addressing the issue of gossiping, right, and not discussing the person who is doing the gossiping. Okay, so it's easy to get sidetracked with the he said, she said banter, so stay focused, right, on settling the issue and not getting sidetracked by the person who is actually doing the gossiping. All right, so here's a quote that's thousands of years old, but still true today. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we speak. This is by Zeno, who was a Stoic. He told this to one of his students thousands of years ago. However, today we still seem to be grappling with the same issues of not being able to listen. All right, so the reason we need to listen is because we have to listen effectively, right? When we're communicating with other people. This is where you listen without trying to think about what you're going to say next as a comeback. And you listen without judgment. And you need to listen with empathy, right? In order to truly understand the situation. Okay. Another thing that is helpful when dealing with conflict is asking questions. So when you ask open-ended questions, they're the best way for the other person to tell their narrative, right? So an open-ended question is a question that can't be answered with a simple yes or no, okay? So an example of a question that's not an open-ended question is, did you have a good day? So when you ask that question, the person's either like, yes, I had a good day, no, I didn't. But if you ask, how was your day? Then that person is able to tell their narrative and say, oh, I had a, you know, this happened today, and they go into whatever they want to talk about. So it allows them to tell their narrative. Okay. There are 4 outcomes when it comes to resolving a conflict. A lot of people don't know that. So there's win-win, win-lose, lose-win and lose-lose. So a win-win is when both parties are happy. A win-lose is when one party's happy and the other one's not satisfied. A lose-win is when one person is losing in order for the other person to feel like, oh, they're gaining something. And a lose-lose is when you're both losing, okay? So when dealing with conflict and resolving conflict, you're trying to aim for a win-win outcome, right? Because this is the best outcome and it allows everyone in this situation to feel happy and satisfied with the results, okay? So if you achieve a win-win outcome, the conflict would have been resolved in the best way possible. Okay, so by separating the individual from the issue, effectively listening, asking open-ended questions, and attaining a win-win outcome, you can resolve team conflicts. Okay, so now we're going to go into the calm dialogue, which is a 4-step process. Okay, so the calm dialogue is important because it can help you deal with conflict using a step-by-step process. It will help you guide your conversation so that you're able to address the issue in a constructive manner. And you can use the steps interchangeably so that the conversation is flowing naturally. Okay, so the acronym for the calm dialogue is CALM, right? So the C stands for conversation begins with I statements. This is a statement that has the word I in it. I feel, I am, I, okay? You're just addressing how you're feeling or how you're, whatever it is you want to talk about. You ask questions, and like we said, you ask open-ended questions because they're the best ones if you can. All right, listen carefully because you want to understand the situation. You want to hear their perspective, okay? And you mirror your response with a you statement, meaning you're repeating what they're saying to clarify it and to have them know that you heard what they're saying, okay? So I have created a scenario here, and it's about an angry customer, and I've asked Preston, and if he can read one of the people. So it's between two people. So I don't know if Felice would be able to read the other person, so they can go through the dialogue. So the reason we're going to go through this is because angry customers will always exist. Therefore, everyone should be prepared to deal with them. And then in here, there's this for profanity, because sometimes people are so angry that they might use profanity. And just look for the highlighted words because it'll show you, kind of give you an idea of how the calm dialogue works. So Preston and Felice, are you guys willing to participate?
Sure.
Sure, that's not a problem.
Okay. Okay, so go ahead, start the dialogue.
Hello, my name is Lance. How can I help you today? Hello, my name is Chloe, and I'm sorry I can't see this properly. Hello, my name is Chloe, and I just received my order. Some of the items that I ordered did not come with this shipment.
I'm so sorry about that. Can I have your order number, please?
The order number is 123.
Okay, Chloe, I've pulled up your order. I see that you ordered 6 items, 3 hats, 3 belts.
No, that's incorrect. I ordered 6 of each item. I hate your company. I ordered 6 of each for my sisters because we are having a family reunion in a few days. I am so angry.
I truly apologize for the inconvenience. Okay, so you ordered 6 of each item?
Are you listening to me? That's what I said.
Yes, I'm listening. I see that you were only charged for 3 of each item.
I don't care what you see or what you say I was charged for. I ordered 6 of each item.
Okay, so you need 3 more of each item, correct?
Yes, for the last time.
Do you want me to place another order for the additional 6 items? If you order it today, it will be there in 2 days and we will waive the shipping fees. I can also give you 10% off on your order. How does that sound, Chloe?
I guess that would work.
So I will ship the 6 additional items out for you. Would you like to use your card on the file to pay for your items?
Yes, that's the one I want to use.
I've just placed the order. You've received a 10% discount on your purchase along with free shipping.
Good.
Is there anything else I can do for you today, Chloe?
No, thank you.
Thank you for calling, Chloe, and have a great day.
Bye.
You guys did a great job. Thank you. Okay, so remember that one needs to separate the individual from the issue. So, Chloe was angry, but when you're separating her from the actual problem, which was the order not being fulfilled properly. So make sure that's the first thing that needs to be done. Then by allowing the angry customer to vent their frustrations, you will inevitably de-escalate the situation. If you can avoid putting the customer on hold, that would be great. When an angry person gets put on hold, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. It makes it worse. By addressing the issue and finding a win-win outcome, you will be able to disarm the angry customer. And the next time they have an issue, they may not be so angry because they now know that the problem can be easily resolved. Okay, so by using the calm dialogue, it will help you guide your conversations so that you may manage, stress of dealing with the customer better. You can practice the calm dialogue by creating scenarios that you may encounter and writing down your responses using the calm dialogue's 4-step process. This will prepare you for the conflict when it arises, right? You'll be better prepared to deal with it because you've actually worked out a scenario. The calm dialogue process can be used in any professional setting. Like I have had so many scenarios written on various things from employee issues to boss management issues to, dealing with customers. In every situation, you can use it to deal with the problem and to come up with a constructive resolution. Okay, so I just released the book. I mean, I was told by Felice I can speak about it for a few minutes. It contains 17 concepts that will enable you to fully understand the premise behind the calm dialogue. So things like Pygmalion effect and internal locus of control and things like that. It's just diving really deeper into management concepts and just understanding and mediation concepts, understanding the premise behind why you use the 4 steps, right? And it's filled with stories from real life experience. And there are games in it for you to help you to understand and put what you're learning into practice. The games and exercises help you just get more comfortable with the concepts that are otherwise they would be too academic or too boring. Right? So the stories, games, and exercises make it more interesting and allow you to absorb the information better. And there's various techniques in there, relaxation techniques that I have, because I know dealing with stressful conversations creates anxiety in some people. And so in order to move forward, sometimes they might need like a quick technique that helps them deal with a stressful situation. So I have some techniques in there. Then it goes into in-depth explanation of the calm dialogue construct and has exercises that helps you, increase your empathy skills, increase your effective listening skills. And then we have scenarios for dialogical practice, right, in there. And there's actual space for you to produce conversations that you may encounter because practice and production help you to master the skill. Okay, because it's one thing to just listen to a presentation, but when you're actually creating content and reading how other people have used the calm dialogue, it will help you to have constructive conversations of your own when you are inevitably met with a tough issue or situation that you have to deal with, right? Like a customer, employee, management, people that are funding your business, whatever it is. So if you do get the book and you want to write a review, go ahead. Honest reviews are welcome, good, bad, it doesn't matter, right? Okay, so thank you for allowing me time to do this presentation, and I will open it up to questions. I can't hear you, Preston.
So sorry. Let me say that one more
Oh, that's
time.
good.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes.
I want to say thank you so much for that amazing presentation. Definitely a lot of nice gems in there that we can use in our real lives. So I'll
Mhm.
start us off with our question and answer segment here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to post them in our Zoom chat here, or as well as our Facebook page. I'll be sure to read them off and have Miss Joy Rich answer them. So our opening question here is that what role does empathy play in conflict resolution?
It plays a big role because you have to be able to empathize with that person and to actually listen to what they're saying in order to see it from their perspective, right? So you have to have the empathy in order to be able to relate to that person and be like, okay, this is what this person's issue is. So I have to be open and empathetic to them, right, in order to move forward and for us to find a resolution.
Nice. I know you spoke about the different communication skills in terms of intrapersonal and interpersonal. How can non-violent communication be used to resolve conflicts?
Oh, I feel like conflict should only be resolved with nonviolence means, because violence does not solve the issue, right? At the core of it, whatever the issue is, violence just makes it worse, right? Because now you're left with the issue, and then on top of it, you have the aftermath of the violence. So now the thing has compounded and it's at least 10 times worse than it was in the beginning. So if you were able to just use your voice instead of violence, right, then you're going to be able to, I think, achieve the win-win outcome. Because really, I think violence is a lose-lose outcome. It is not, you don't obtain a win-win outcome with that.
Nice.
So
So,
you're welcome.
so we have some questions coming in on our Zoom here. Another question on Zoom says, is resolution the same as common ground? That's a good
Maybe.
one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Because if you are able to find common ground, I think it's the first step, one of the first steps to resolving an issue, right? Because now you're both listening to each other because you have common ground, right? So you could be like, okay, well, now we see each other's perspective and we have common ground. Now we're going to move forward and find a win-win outcome, which is the best outcome for this scenario. So common, it's not the same, right? Because some people think win-win means, compromise, right? Some people are like, oh, if you compromise is not the same as win-win, because in a compromise, the other party feels like they're giving something up and they're not fully getting 100%. A win-win is when everyone feels like they're getting the best outcome or the best situation, that could come from the situation. So common ground, I think, is a step before resolution. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Another question from the Zoom chat says, how does the calm dialogue help people who are nervous about having difficult conversations because of their rejection affair? In other words, does your method calm nerves or only anger?
Okay, so the way it calms nerves, right, is because it allows you to practice, right? So you know that conflict is going to occur, and so you need to be prepared for it. So when you're prepared for a situation, it helps you to calm yourself a bit. And then there's actually, in my techniques, it's like there's a relaxation component. So you go through like, breathing, or you do some deep breathing and relaxation exercises, coupled with the fact that you've already gone over this scenario in your mind, right? And so now you're prepared for it. It's not a surprise. And so that's going to help you engage in this conversation, knowing that you've already have like a format in your mind. I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to listen, I'm going to reflect, I'm going to use I statements. And so you kind of have a semi-script to go off of, and you know how to deal with it. So it helps you with your anxiety and nervousness.
Another follow-up to that question in our Zoom chat here, is communication synonymous with confrontation? Is communication synonymous with confrontation?
No, because you don't have to be confrontational when having a discussion, right? Like you can have a discussion in a calm manner where it's not a confrontation, right? Because if you're actually having a confrontation, the other person might seize up, right? So when you're communicating, it's not necessarily the same thing as a confrontation. But if you are confronted with a confrontation, you can use a calm method to deal with it in a calm manner, so it doesn't turn out to be this negative experience, right? Because a lot of people feel like confrontations are negative. And so you can just turn that around, like when someone's angry, and then you can use like the process and just address it in a calm manner.
Thank you for that, Joy. I know sometimes we do find ourselves in situations that we don't have control over, and we do try to prepare ourselves as best. But what are some strategies for de-escalating conflicts that that we haven't spoken about already?
Okay. So some techniques for de-escalating the conflict. This one is a little risky. It's humor. Right? Sometimes humor works, but you have to know your audience, right? Because sometimes they'll be like, no, they didn't get the joke. But sometimes, sometimes it's like you say something and it's like, it's funny, and the person automatically, has their guard down. They're like, okay, you know what? That was funny. Let me not be so angry. Another thing is to future focus, is to focus on the future, not the past. Because if you keep rewinding the past, you're not going to be able to move forward. And so that's a mediation tactic to look forward, to be like, okay, now we're moving forward on this. How is this best, resolved? Another way is to look at the big picture and be like, okay, what are we really trying to achieve here? Right? And so a lot of times with team initiatives, if you set a superordinate goal, it's like this big goal that other people have to work together to achieve. And so it allows teams to work better together if you set a superordinate goal and not focus on she's gossiping about me, he's doing this, he took credit for my work. So, there's a lot of them, but those are just a few.
Thank you for that. Another question in our Zoom chat here says, is it ever okay to walk away from a difficult conversation?
It is if you are having a conversation with someone that is not stable. Okay. If you're having a conversation with someone at work, more than likely they're stable. They do not have, a diagnosis or something. But when you're dealing with someone that's really not stable and is emotionally dealing with a lot of things or whatever, then you can't really get to a resolution, right? So it's best, that is the situation that I know for sure. You you can maybe walk away from and just kind of agree to disagree at that point. But when you're dealing with business, I feel like you need to resolve it, because that's a customer that's leaving, that's an employee that's leaving, that's, you know, it's business. It's you have to work through it. But when it's personal, it's a little bit different. Sometimes you do need to walk away and revisit it at another time.
Thank you for that. Another question in our Zoom chat says, do you recommend writing a letter or email to communicate something difficult? For example, disciplining an employee.
Disciplining an employee, writing a letter. I think,
or an email.
I think you can write an email telling them that you're going to have a meeting with them, but I think you need to have that conversation in person, because there's a lot of tone that is not picked up on email and text, right? So when someone says something, the other person's left wondering, what tone are they using? What do they mean by this, you know? And that's an avoidance technique. So I have, you know, professional development class, and it's like, it goes into emotional intelligence, right? So you have got to look at, okay, your emotional intelligence, like you're concerned for others, concerned for self. What is your communication technique? Are you avoiding? Are you dominating? Are you collaborative? So being collaborative is the best way. If you're avoiding, then it's not good. You have to be able to address this person face to face, via Zoom or whatever it is, but you have to have this conversation in person, and then you can, you know, be like, oh, we addressed this and this and this in our meeting or whatever. But I don't think it's like breaking up with someone over email. Are you going to do that? Like, it's better to talk to them in person and to work it out, right?
No, you're exactly right. What are some common mistakes to avoid when trying to resolve conflicts in the workplace?
Oh, like making someone do something, like you have to do, like threat. That's another fallacy, right? It's appealing to threat and force. So that doesn't ever really go over well. You know what I mean? Because the person's gonna quit, or you know, they get fired or whatever, but they might be a good worker, right? So instead of, you know, through force or threat, you need to have a conversation and motivate, right? Find their motivation. So, you know, I feel like that's something that shouldn't be done.
So another scenario question here. How would you handle a boardroom situation where people are rudely speaking over you to get their point across? If you simply remain calm and quiet, you may not have the opportunity to express yourself. So should you be rude back and speak over the person, or how best should we handle that situation?
Okay, are you running the meeting? Is this person running the meeting?
Let's say, for example, this person that's speaking over me is running the meeting.
Okay, so the first thing you do is you have ground rules. In mediation, that's the first thing you do. You go in, you're like, my ground rule, first ground rule, no one speaks over the other person. Second ground rule, no one uses profanity. Third ground rule, you know, we finish in half an hour. Fourth ground rule, we address issues, you know, this way, you know, whatever. So you have to start off with ground rules. And when someone is breaking the ground rule, you do it right away. You enforce it. You're like, you are not supposed to speak over someone else. Stop, because if you allow the first person to speak over, then other people are going to start speaking over others. So you have to lay out your ground rules, and that way that should ensure people don't speak over you. And then if they do, you call them out on it and you say, hey, remember we went back to the ground rules? And then, you know, bring them back and let them realize that they're breaking a rule.
Let's say hypothetically there aren't any ground rules. Then what should we do?
You didn't lay out ground rules.
No.
So then you can say, Preston, you're speaking over me. Can you wait until I finish this, my sentence? Or I'm speaking, you know, can you please give me a few minutes, and then you can have your opportunity to speak, right? Or then right away you can pick up something and be like, okay, this is a pencil. I'm holding it now, so I'm going to speak, and then I'm going to give it to you. And when you're holding it, you're speaking. So whoever holds the pencil is speaking.
So be more so direct in your response, or direct in nipping it in the bud.
You have to.
So
right?
that
You have to nip it in the bud.
that actually leads me to my next question. How can active listening help in conflict resolution in the workplace?
So that's the active listening is the same as the effective empathetic listening that I spoke about, because when you are listening, right, you're listening to what they're saying, and then when they're done speaking, you then reflect it back and be like, okay, so Preston, you said, this and this and this. Is that correct? Because you're trying to clarify that you heard them correctly, and you're giving them the opportunity, if they're like, oh no, I didn't mean it that way, this is what I meant, right? For them to just restate it if needed. But that's active listening. So it will help you resolve conflict.
Thank you so much for that. Now, and while I have you here, Joy, I do want to ask out of curiosity, what is the difference between calm dialogue and passive aggression?
Oh no, calm dialogue is not passive aggression, because passive aggression is like you do things and you have all these feelings inside and you're like, I didn't slam the door. Oh, well, or you slam your pencil down. You're like, the person's like, oh, is something wrong? No. But you have all these feelings inside, right? But you're not saying them, right? You're just bottling them up. So calm dialogue is like taking that cap off the bottle, right? Letting you speak and tell your narrative and see their perspective and listen to what they have to say, right? And that way you can clarify it. So, and resolve it maybe. So passive aggression is when you're not saying anything and you're keeping it in. Calm dialogue is giving you a tool like the bottle opener to allow you to open up your bottle and let your feelings come out in a constructive way.
Thank you for that. And just out of curiosity for this, how can cultural differences impact communication and conflict resolution?
Yeah, so that's why you shouldn't email anybody anything, right? Because culturally, like I studied this in my MBA, it's like even something as simple as eye contact or, the okay sign is interpreted differently by different cultures, right? And silence in Asian culture, they're using silence to think, and Americans think, oh, we got to keep talking because silence is like a death sentence. So in negotiations, they always lose, right? If you're against an Asian person. So dealing with different cultures, it's good to ask questions, right? It's actually the best thing to see what their perspective is, because you might be seeing something in one way and they see it in another. So using the calm dialogue is the best method to use when dealing with people of different cultures.
And speaking of, I guess, more so variations of our approach, how can technology be used to facilitate communication and conflict resolution?
Well, it can be used to do it rapidly, right? Like if you're having, if you're a part of a team that's a global team, right? You now have the ability to like send a message or do a video chat with that person and actually deal with that issue right away, whatever the issue is. And that way you're seeing the person, right? If you're on a screen, you're seeing the person and you're able to read their facial expressions and you're able to gauge better how you guys are working through the situation. So I think using technology is wonderful. It's a great tool and it helps you resolve conflicts faster, right?
Now, Joy, I just want to pick your mind just a little bit more and taking us back to the workplace. What are some common communication mistakes made under stress in the work environment? Made
under stress? That's like the one thing I know is time. Is that when people are like, okay, you have a deadline. Okay, deadlines cause people to act unethically a lot of the times because they want to get their thing in, right? And so, you know, instead of like being stressed out about this deadline, maybe be prepared for it. And if you're having issues, then communicate with your boss or communicate with your team and be like, okay, I was supposed to do this, but this happened and I need help. Can someone help me or whatever? And then like you have to then be helpful to them if they're having deadline issues as well. But I find like deadlines sometimes cause a lot of issues in the workplace. Being part of a team, right? Some people aren't pulling their weight, right? I don't know if you've experienced that, but I've experienced that. Well, I'm a team of one. I'm like, hello, right? So you got to actually talk to your team members and be like, Preston, I would like for you to help more on this. I notice you're not really, doing this. Is there a problem, right? And then you might be like, yeah, there's a problem, blah, blah. But I don't know what the problem is. I just know Preston's not producing. Right? But when I start to talk to you and then figure out, okay, what is the issue? Then we can work together with the other team members and actually achieve our goal.
Nice. And follow-up question, how do you resolve conflicts over text messages without taking it in the wrong perspective?
You can, if you're like, oh, I just need to have my stuff written down so I can prove I text somebody, right? But you have to actually have a conversation with the person, right? You have to you have to talk to them because, like, remember we talked about tone in text messages. You don't know what they're saying, like, how are they meaning it? So if you talk to them, you can send a text message and say, oh, let's talk about this topic, at 4 or whatever, right? And then you would have a conversation with them. Face-to-face is the best. Video, second best, third best, phone call, right? But you have to actually hear their voice, listen to their tone, and see their facial expression. So I don't think text messages are the best.
Well, Ms. Joy Rich, thank you so much for this question answer. I don't have any more questions on my end here. I'm now going to turn this podium back over to Ms. Felice Bethel.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Give me a second. Let me turn on my video. And so, Joy, I truly enjoyed your presentation, and I'm sure we're going to have lots of positive feedback on our Facebook page where a lot of our viewers have been tuned in. And so, just like we did on the first night, we have an opportunity for attendees to win a prize. And so the question that we're asking tonight is, according to Joy Rich, the most difficult and rewarding conversation that she's had has been with A, her friend, B, her boss, C, her employee, and D, her cousin. Did somebody laugh?
Me.
Okay. Do I need to repeat the question?
Yes,
Preston,
please.
are there any responses in the chat?
No response.
Okay, so the most difficult conversation that Joy has had to date, the most difficult and the most rewarding, has been with A, her friend, B, her boss, C, her colleague, and D, her cousin. And the prize, because we're talking about communication, is a new cell phone sponsored by Alive.
We have an answer in the chat that says cousin with a question mark.
Nope, not the answer. Are you checking Facebook as well, Preston?
Yes, checking Facebook as well.
Preston, why don't you take a stab at
Sure, I would love a new phone.
it?
So I would say that her most difficult but rewarding conversation's been with her employee. C?
No.
Oh,
Ah, so somebody got it. Someone said boss. So Joy, can you confirm if that's correct? And if it's correct, can you give us the general scenario?
Oh, yes, it's correct. So I was, when I was working, I had to have a difficult conversation with my boss about gossiping because she was gossiping about her employees, right? Her staff. And I just was like, do you think that that's okay? Do you think that people are okay with you, divulging their personal information? And I think it was rewarding because I think it allowed her to reflect on her actions. She might have just been used to doing that, and no one ever said anything to her because she's your boss. Right? I mean, the power dynamics, right? She's your boss, you're the employee. So it would have been easier if it was a coworker, right? Because they're on the same level as you. But when it's your boss, it's more of a
Much more
difficult conversation. Mhm.
Okay. Well, congratulations. I don't know what LLM stands for, but if you can drop your email address so that we can direct you on how to redeem your prize, that would be awesome. Thanks again, Joy.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.